I wish I had been recording that.
We could stage it. We could stage it. You want to turn on the recording?
I'm a terrible actor. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, I could do it again. That's the thing. You have to not think of it as acting. It's discovering it for the first time.
Well, see, now you sound like an awesome actor.
Well, I'm not an awesome actor for sure. I think maybe I'm a better actor now because I recently got in touch with like a lot more of my feelings.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd be a better actor now. Because in the past, when I've done acting, I had this guy tell me this. He was like an actor, and he came to me. He said, "You can do caricatures, but you don't do characters because you don't bring emotion to it. You just take a kind of a trait of someone and you blow it up big, and so it's funny,
like a cartoon, but they're hollow.
Yeah,
inside.
and they're like, it's really funny, and he was like, that's why you do improv, is because that's great. That's what you need, improv. But he's like, but if you want to be an actor, you have to actually bring like the full emotion to it. And I was like, I'm incapable of that. But now I feel like I am more capable of that. Therapy,
right on.
Therapy. Should we get started?
Let's get started.
Yeah, should we do it?
Yeah.
Okay. You haven't been recording this whole time, have you?
I have been.
Oh my God. My God.
So we just start talking and we're good.
Oh my God, good. Welcome everybody to Solutions from the Multiverse.
Welcome. I'm Scott Maupin.
My name's Adam Brous.
And thank you for joining us again.
This is the podcast where other podcasts focus on problems. This is the podcast where we focus on solutions. That's right. Yes. So should we just get straight forward? Okay, we're going to talk about something super, super nerdy.
Ooh.
And weird. And
you're talking to the right guy then. Okay, good. I am both of those things.
Yes. Awesome.
Both super nerdy, check, and weird, check. Got it.
So, nonprofit governance. Let's do this.
Nonprofit governance.
Yeah, or even for-profit too. Maybe that goes part of it. But governance in general of organizations.
Uh-huh.
It's really harshing. Like for me, I'm like really irritated by it since I've learned about this, and I've basically starting various organizations, and I'm learning about like the governance and like how the boards can get screwed up. Okay, so here's
clue me in. Yeah,
so here's the solution. Let me just tell you the solution.
Okay, please.
Okay, missionary versus basically missionary duty should trump fiduciary duty.
Missionary duty over fiduciary
exactly.
duty.
And right now, fiduciary duty actually trumps the duty to the mission of the organization
over the money, the bottom line.
The fiduciary duty trumps currently, but it should be reversed. It should be that if a person on a board makes a decision that's in line with the mission but hurts the finances, they can't be sued, which today you can actually sue someone. If they're on your board, the other board members or the company itself can sue that board member
for not obsessively seeking the profit,
even if it's a nonprofit organization, which sounds crazy, which it is crazy. It's crazy.
Right.
And actually, it'd be better if you could sue people who did things that went against the mission for the sake of the money, selfishly, right? Like too focused on money, not focused enough on the mission.
Money over value is what you were saying.
Exactly.
All right, here's where I have to back up and ask one of my classic dumb questions. Who is included in governance for a thing? Who's included in that umbrella?
I mean, it's pretty much the boards. So every organization has like a board.
Like a board of trustees? Is that what that is?
Trustees or not trustees.
Shareholders?
It's not a trust. Shareholders if it's a for-profit business.
Okay.
Nonprofit businesses are non-stock corporations, so they don't have stock, so no one can own them. But the boards are just members of the board.
Are we also talking like a CEO and a CFO and all the C-suite people?
Yeah. Those guys are like in a corporation, you'll have a C-suite, like a for-profit company. In a nonprofit company, you'll usually have what's called an ED, executive director.
Okay.
And they might have a kind of cadre of people that are like a CFO and a COO around them, but the ED is essentially the CEO.
Okay.
And they report to the board.
All right.
Sometimes they're on the board too. Like they have a vote in the board, things.
I think I have a grasp of it now. Sorry, I didn't mean to slow it down.
No. I think of it as like a really, really weirdly shaped hourglass, right? Because you have everyone working for the corporation is like, or the nonprofit or for-profit is in the bottom. And then you have like the CEO or the ED at the top. That's like the pinch point where the sand falls through. And then on the
Okay.
top, you have the board. And the board is usually like supposed to be, it's supposed to be like these sort of, ultra sort of reasonable, detached sort of angels who are like, using data to
Right.
decide exactly what should be done perfectly for the good of the organization and society and everything. But in reality, it doesn't really work out that way.
It feels like it's supposed to function as a collective wisdom
Right.
pool where you can draw wisdom out of when you need it or when it's applicable. And it seems very strange if that collective wisdom pool is like, oh, but also we're always going for the dollar.
Right.
Like you can ask us questions and we'll give you answers. Just know that the dollar is our first and foremost like consideration before the answer to your question. Like that's wrapped around it.
It doesn't seem like a good system. Like it doesn't seem fair, but it is the way it works right now. Like I'm working on building this organization. It's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 nonprofit.
Mhm.
And even now, as we talk about like the longevity of the organization, we're like, this is actually kind of a puzzle, because even if we bring people onto the board who are aligned, unless you have to use my organization as an example, we just use any organization, any nonprofit. If you bring someone onto the board who's completely aligned with your mission, and then somewhere down the line it comes to a question mark, and the fork in the road is like go right, go left,
Mhm.
and go left hurts the finances of the organization, but it supports the mission, and to the right hurts, is vice versa. If they don't do the thing that is their fiduciary responsibility, it sounds like they can be sued by the other board members and by the institution itself. Like the ED could like literally call the lawyer of the company and have them sue the board member for like doing something that hurt the finances of the business. Because now suddenly that nonprofit, not the business, I keep kind of mixing up business and nonprofit because they are somewhat similar. But that nonprofit organization now has like standing, like it's been harmed by that decision that the board member made.
They can be like, you literally cost us money, so
we're suing you for doing that. And that might try to, I don't know if it necessarily can get money out of them, but you kick them off the board. You can, you can do things to,
And the reverse is not true. If you make the other decision, no one can bring you up on charges that you have not maximized the values, of the institution. That
right. Like imagine you're like an anti-hunger charity,
Mhm.
right? And it's like your decision is like, should we take all this money but the money is earmarked for like social media promotion, or should we like not take all that money and like use all the time and effort to like actually relieve like 100 people's hunger? You would actually, if you just took the money, you would be fiduciarily correct. But if you actually said no to a bunch of money that was just gonna like, I don't know, make you post on social media for a lot of time, and instead you like fed 100 people, you would be wrong. Like you would be fiduciarily like breaking your responsibility to the organization. So it basically forces all nonprofits to function like for-profits. But if we instead said, this is insane, clearly we want nonprofits at least, if not also for-profits, or B corporation. There's also like B corporations, which have a little more. Anyways, we can talk more about that in a little bit. But if we did this, if we said, look, there you have first and foremost, at least in nonprofits, a missionary, or I don't like to say missionary because it sounds like we're talking about the sexual position.
It already has some like cultural tail. Yeah, that does.
We could say mission,
the
duty,
mission or
the
values.
mission duty. Yeah, the value. Well, the values could be like
That's
the
different.
money or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah. So, what the hell? Why is the fiduciary responsibility of a board member more important than the mission or the values or the kind of spirit of the organization? Shouldn't that trump everything? And shouldn't it be so much the trumping that actually if it led to the death of the organization, that would actually be the right choice? Like the right choice would be to make the decisions that were in line with the values, even if that led to the organization dying.
Right, because
financially.
the alternative is making decisions that are contrary to the values of the entity
for the sake
in
of
order just to get money and like survive in this weird, dishonest way. Yeah, that seems way
right.
Yeah,
doesn't that seem obvious?
Okay,
but I mean, this is actually represents a huge 180-degree change to the way nonprofits are governed today. And not just like some nonprofits. This is the way. You cannot be on the board of a nonprofit and then recommend an action that financially hurts the nonprofit. if you do, you can be considered like in trouble for having broken your fiduciary duty to the organization.
So what would this look like then in implementation? So if we're using that hourglass analogy, and the ED or the CEO is the pinch point, and I'm assuming you're saying replace the top part of that hourglass with a differently motivated top part.
Well, you don't have to change necessarily the people who are on it. I think a lot of people on the boards of nonprofits would like this to be the case, right? They're
yeah.
very mission motivated.
It seems like the whole nonprofit would like this change because
Probably.
It would allow them to kind of more not have to worry about the dollar as much all the time and focus on what they're actually trying to do. It doesn't become secondary.
I would think so. I mean, especially people on the front lines. I mean, they care about their salaries being paid, but they're usually, I mean, in nonprofits, they're generally very motivated by the issue. Otherwise, they'd go work in the private sector and make maybe more money or something.
So if you don't have to change the people involved, is it just like an edict or making it no longer viable to sue people who make that decision?
I think
what's the change?
I think there would have to be either a law or some kind of rereading of precedent. I mean, I doubt that you could reread the precedent because I'm sure the law just says like if you harm the institution, you then are in trouble because you harmed something financially and you have a duty to it fiduciarily. But if there was some just regulation change, a law change that said like now, if someone on a board of a nonprofit can a reasonable person, obviously everything comes down to like what could be defensible in court. But if it's like if a reasonable person could say that their choice was in favor of the mission, even if it hurt the organization financially, then they're protected, they're safe.
Well, maybe similarly to how truth is an absolute defense against slander or whatever, that you can have it be like this shield that drops down if you can prove that you're like, no, my decision may have cost money, but it was wholly in line with the X, Y, and Z of our mission.
Right.
So that the bullets that are coming at you now bounce off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's
in
what
that specific case. But when you're just making that, when you're making weird decisions for no reason and costing the company money,
sure,
they still have the ability to be like, hey,
yeah, if you're like, we got to take all this money and buy me Lamborghinis, obviously, right?
Untouchable, you can't do it.
The mission of our nonprofit is to buy people Lamborghinis. I'm a person.
Yeah. Here in 4-point font, I put, and I get lots of Lamborghinis. You didn't.
There it is.
It's not my fault that you didn't hit this with a magnifying glass, but I'll be seeing you later. Vroom.
Vroom. That Lamborghini takes
exactly.
off. Yeah. I was flummoxed when I learned that this was the case. And then I talked to a few other people who had also like kind of worked with boards and talked, and they were like, you need to build in a culture from like the bottom of your organization all the way through your board of like a single culture where people really understand like the values and everything. Because if you don't, anybody who comes in is on your board can just be like, well, nope, the best thing for this organization is to like
cold, heartless.
Well, it's not so cold and heartless because they have a very good defense because they're like, you know what? If the organization dies, it can't do the mission. Yeah. So clearly, I'm not a bad guy. I'm just kind of it's always this like kind of, like I'm the realist in the room, right? Like you guys are all just being idealists,
right.
But it's not really the case because sometimes it's better to like run lean and maybe have a down year if you can then stay true to your mission as opposed to sort of chasing. There's a this is a good mythological tale for this.
Okay,
Paris. When he was going through, I think, the underworld, and someone told him, "Don't go on." This is Paris, the ancient Greek prince, said, "Don't go." Who then stole Helen? He stole Helen, and then Helen was
Paris of the Troy
of taking Helen, and then Troy was invaded, right? So he was in the underworld, and someone told him, "Don't go off the path. Just stay on the path, and you'll be fine to get out of the underworld." And he was like, cool. And he went along, and then he saw like this golden apple, and he was like, oh my God, that apple's so so beautiful. And so he's like, I can go off the path a little bit. So
I know what I heard, but I'm different.
Yeah, I'm special. And so he goes off the path. He gets the golden apple, and then later I think he gives that golden apple to Helen in a competition between Aphrodite, Helen, and someone else for beauty.
Okay.
And then he gives it to Helen, the human, and that pisses the goddesses off. And then I think that's what kind of makes the War of Troy happen. But basically, as you're going down this path, of whatever organization you're running, for profit or nonprofit, honestly, they're very similar. I've run both, and they're very similar.
I knew that this was a thing with companies or with corporations, I guess, because that's what came to my mind. But I did not know that this was also a thing for nonprofits. I guess I did assume that it wasn't a thing for nonprofits because of the name nonprofit.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then also, I had to learn slowly that like, oh, people can get paid if they work at a nonprofit, because at first you're like, how does that work? What?
Right.
But yeah, there's levels to it. But I definitely did not know this part.
Me neither.
Of it.
Me neither.
It's a little alarming.
Yeah, I thought nonprofits, like the whole point was to free them up from the profit motive, and in reality, like even are not like, I feel like even people in the nonprofit sector are like, oh, I'm clean, I'm sort of, I'm outside of this like horrible thing, this capitalism or whatever, which I don't necessarily think is that horrible. But a lot of the people,
but in reality, industry, everything is capitalist. Nonprofits even are just single capitalists, and regular profits are just double capitalist.
Exactly. It's like single. It's right. It's like single capitalism and double capitalism. Yeah.
Oh, you're not capitalist at all. Okay, so you're just the default level of capitalism. You're like,
exactly. No, not capitalist at all.
I'm trying to get to zero.
No, that's illegal.
That's not.
It's illegal to just be like a fully, entirely mission-driven organization. That's not a thing.
Wow.
It cannot be a thing, because if you financially hurt your organization, the organization then has tort standing. Like, you harmed them, so that's called, I guess, a tort is like the legal action you take against someone who harms you. And so, yeah, it's crazy. I feel like, and I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I'm sure maybe some of our lawyer listeners will be like, nah, you can get around it if you do this and file that, or you, I don't know, maybe there's a way to get around it. But I've talked to probably 4 different people as I've been starting this new nonprofit, and all of them have said, no, like if your board doesn't just see completely eye to eye with you, and you aren't all exactly like in lockstep, like vision, then one of them can be like, nope, we're just not doing any of this because we can get more grant money if we go do this.
Wow.
So they just, and if you don't go along with them, like they can just sue the rest of the board.
They can steamroll it.
They can just steamroll it through so it's like, it forces you to follow the money.
I mean, it's weird. You'd expect the mission statement and the profit motive to come at heads sometimes. And then I would think a reasonable board would then look at those times individually and go, okay, which of the times are we going to go on to the profit side? Which of the times are we going to go on to the mission side? And just to have a default, well, I win all ties, feels like a broken system.
Yeah.
Waiting to just spring in the wrong direction.
I mean, if everyone on the board agrees to go against the sort of financial interest of the organization
then it's
in
not
favor of the mission, then it's not a problem,
right?
Because none of them will like take up arms.
But it's an outsized. It's not an equal playing field. The other side has if one person wants to block it, they can block the will of 3 other people, which
and
is
even
weird.
Launch their will, whatever they think is better, and they can strong arm everybody in the room and be like, look, you all have a fiduciary responsibility to this organization, and therefore, like, your role is to protect the finances of this organization. And it's like, that should be the case. Maybe, for profits, I assume, okay, whatever, okay. But nonprofits, isn't the whole damn point is to not have to have that be the, like, shouldn't it be? Yeah. And
if not a nonprofit, then where is the place where that is the point? You know what I mean? Well, it's not here.
Like a for-profit, you would not like if a for-profit were a person. He'd have his hair slicked back, and he'd look like Gavin Newsom. He'd have like a blue suit on and a red tie, and he'd
very expensive,
very expensive leather shoes, and if there was like a problem, like a burning building, he'd be maybe the first a really good socially active corporation would be the first person to like call 911. Great, but like a nonprofit who is a person, he has like cargo shorts on and hoodie. But when the burning building, he's the first guy who runs in the build. That should be the case. But no, he can't do that because he can't. These organizations can't risk their own lives financially for their missions. It's not actually legal.
It is weird to have a company where you're populating it with hoodie people and saying, all right, now how do we all turn into expensive fancy suit people?
Act like
and
that,
they're like, we're not that's why we're here. We're not those people. What are you talking about? That if we were that people, we would be over there doing that.
We're being so
we came over here.
We're just stereotyping the crap out of people.
I don't think I've stereotyped once. I think I am 100.
I've stereotyped. I've stereotyped bad. Hoodies. People with nonprofits can wear suits.
I'm just
But,
I'm using this as shorthand for comfortable versus whatever.
yeah, or
like,
just profit.
power
yeah,
suit things.
like you were saying, like, yeah, at some point, because in the vagaries of human experience, there's going to be conflicts between
Sure.
two motivations. One, to like make money or even survive. Like, I think to the point where corporations, like nonprofits that literally would die if they followed their mission, should just choose to die. It's noble. And it should be legal. I mean, their board could decide not to do that, but it should be legal to decide to crash against the rocks, right? But it's not. It's not. It's so weird.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
makes board building hard. I find it, because it makes it hard to build a board, because if you bring someone on that you don't really like down to their bones know who they are and like really have like personal loyalties,
Yeah.
like you got to have some serious compromat on every just joking.
Well, it turns entities into sociopaths. I mean,
good
because
point. Yeah.
they're imagine a person that you knew who
Mhm.
operated as only a for-profit like me. They only do things for profit ever, and they don't ever move for not profit. That would be a sociopath, you know. And so if you're demanding your organization to be run like that, that feels like a disconnect with basic humanity.
So they would be like really nice to you until you like got them the wrong birthday present, and then they'd be like, "You're dead. You're dead to me."
Well, they would definitely accept birthday presents and not give
Oh,
any
yeah, they
for
would
sure.
really, they accept very expensive birthday.
They're like, my
presents.
return on investment here is not worth your. I gotta say, you've been slacking on
Yeah.
friendship, and so you don't get a present this year.
I
Sorry.
have a spreadsheet of my friends, and each one has a different columns next to their names with how much contributions they've made to parties, to birthday parties,
How many business leads they have provided?
Right, exactly. Right.
I
How
keep
much-
very strict numbers,
Yep.
and if you don't perform,
You're
not getting a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, you're not getting my cheap birthday presents that I give out. My 500.
I have a goodie
Please.
bag, and it's going to not you. I'm sorry.
This is the birthday party version of sociopaths. Good thing they're not like murdering you. You know, they're not like killing you and eating you. That's the other thing psychopaths do, I guess.
I hope. Yeah, I mean,
They're the bad guys in every movie. Don't you feel like that's a little bit of
Wait
a
a
gimme
minute.
at this point?
the bad guys in every movie you see kill
are
and eat
psychopaths.
people.
No, but they're psychopaths.
Oh, okay.
Even
I was
if they
like-
don't kill and
it's
eat
like
people.
you're watching a lot of.
I know.
You're watching a lot of cannibal movies.
I need to stop watching cannibal movies. But seriously, right? Why is every bad guy a psychopath? It's like, can't we find another villain? Can't we have like a, you know?
It does it, yeah. Where they're just like, I'm evil, and why? Well, because I'm evil.
Yeah, exactly. Because I just hate human beings.
My evil motivations
or
are because I
something.
am evil.
So boring. Let's have
I
people
mean-
be evil because of like greater good that they're trying.
I'm a
to
comic book guy, and so I've seen a lot of the whole like, moo ha ha ha, I am an evil supervillain, and
Yeah,
no one's going, why is that? They're just, because it's a comic book. We need a villain.
we just need them to
I'm
be
the
a jerk.
I'm the bad guy. I got superpowers, and I want to use them to rob banks. That's what I'm doing.
Right. And Captain Planet's the best, right? They just waste stuff. Ah, ha, ha, I just throw paper in the ground. It's like,
Anything-
what?
Yeah, anything very destructive to the earth. They're like,
Yes, that sounds like great.
I have deforested this area, not for personal gain,
No,
just
no.
for out of spite.
Yeah, and I'm just going to turn on all these idling trucks. I'm the idler.
You have a strong memory of Captain Planet. I don't. I am out on details.
I just made that up. I'm inventing new Captain Planet
Villains.
villains. I came up with that because in New York they passed this law a couple of years ago where if you see an idling truck, it's illegal to idle your truck in New York. You're supposed to turn it off.
Okay.
But if you see an idling truck, you can turn them into the cops and they give you like $50.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually a guy made like $65,000 in 2022 or 2021.
This is
Just-
the idler.
Just walking around. No, he's
The
like
anti-
Captain Planet. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He's got like a heart ring or something, you know. He's maybe he's the idler. 'cause
Why
he
do
goes
people
after-
idle? I've never been to New York, so
I
why
know.
why
do
idle?
people idle trucks anywhere? I don't know.
I feel
It's
like
weird.
leaving my car running when I'm not in it.
It's a waste.
It's just a waste. But I'm just asking to come back to not my car being there anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like that's
Yeah,
one step
why-
shy of unlocked door open. Please take my car somewhere else.
When I was like a teenager, someone was idling a truck, and I was like, "Why are you idling your truck? Like, isn't it just burn gas? Isn't that just money?" And they were like, "Oh no, to start the engine of a truck takes like a ton of gas."
Are we talking like big semi like
No, I
big
think-
trucks or
I think there's not very many 16 wheelers in New York City, right?
I
So it's got to be
hope
more
not.
like smaller kind of vans and
Yeah.
trucks. But I think it's just, yeah, somebody said that. Somebody said, oh, it's just, it takes energy to restart the engine. But I don't think that's true. We gone way off. Wait, we got to get back to boards.
Boards and
Maybe
governance.
it was too boring. It is boring, but there's something about boring parts of life, or not life, but of society. In some ways, boredom is a kind of way to protect, for the powerful to kind of protect an area, is they kind of buffer it with like a big moat of boredom.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think there's a lot of underhanded, mischievous stuff that just goes on in places where they're just like, you don't want to bother. This is boring. What?
Yeah.
This is
Who knows
stuffy
about
suit
that?
stuff,
Yeah,
moving numbers. Who cares? And then you look into it and you're like, oh, you guys are just doing like villainous stuff here. What is going on? And they're like, what are you talking about?
No big deal. No big deal.
No, it is a thing where it's not, I think, not boring, but it's not sexy. It's not like juicy.
Yeah. It's not Red Bull guys jumping off in squirrel suits and like base jumping.
Going like, how do we fix the strangely off compass needle inside the governance of nonprofits?
And I mean, these board meetings too, these are not like, you don't make like, movie makers, the guy who made like Social Network or whatever, they make these business sagas. No one will ever make a business saga about a nonprofit board. It's the most boring group of people ever. Right. They all just sit. Now it's all on Zoom too, so they just sit there and they're like, do we have a quorum? Come to order. Blah blah blah. Like, it's so boring.
And that's what you want from the outside. From the outside, if I'm looking for a nonprofit that is doing its mission and doing good work, what I don't want to hear about is how amazing and crazy the board room is, and how wild, and like, I want to know that place is boring and those people are making normal, very easy decisions.
The Wolf of Wall
working.
Street, nonprofit version. It's so boring.
If I pull into a mechanic and they go, oh man, you would not believe what is happening under your hood, I'd be like, I don't want that. No. I want you to look under there and say, this is all very normal. Yes.
Okay, so here's the crazy side to this. If we changed it so the law said that nonprofits have a mission responsibility over their fiduciary responsibility, their board members do.
Yeah.
Then it actually kind of opens it up to an interesting way where these organizations could be policed by the public through activist lawyers. So activist lawyers could review actions that the nonprofit took. And if the actions were ever against the mission, they could just sue the nonprofit, right? They could sue they could sue the board members who voted, because it's all public. You can demand, you can see the board notes of all kinds of things, right? Because it's a nonprofit organization. Like, there's these kind of things they have to give up in terms of transparency. And so you can, that the lawyers could be like, hey, look, hey, this organization, the foundation of whatever. I mean, I could pick on right wing or left wing organizations, but I'll just pick on a right wing one. Like the nonprofit branch of the NRA, right? Because the NRA has a political branch, a 501c4, and a nonprofit, a 501c3.
I did not know that.
Yep. So again, boredom. It's so boring. As I said, 501. I just saw your eyes like roll back in your head.
Oh, what? Are you done now? What was that? Okay.
Yeah. Man, when you get into the IRS tax code, wow, is that's where the real moat of boredom. It's more of a moat. It's more like an ocean of boredom, like the way, the Queen of Dragons had to cross over the ocean. That's how big it is of boredom. But basically, the 501c3 side of the NRA, somebody could just like look at that and be like, hey, you did all this great stuff on gun safety, but you also did like all this stuff that actually is supporting the political side. And so we're going to like come down on you like a ton of bricks because you like went against, or you could go after some school, like some university, like a Harvard that has like billions of dollars in endowment. And you could be like, that's bullshit. Like having a multi-billion dollar endowment is not advancing the mission of Harvard, and therefore we're like suing you for not advancing your own mission.
So wait,
because the mission would become primary.
At first, it sounded like you were saying this would result in fewer people being sued, because right now they're being sued when they don't maximize money. But now it sounds like the second step is
more suing,
more people being sued by the public at large.
I mean, I'm not pro, litigation or something. And I certainly don't want, slap suits like needless.
Is that a stock portfolio of lawyer firms I see sticking out of your pocket?
Are you claiming that I myself am?
This week you bought 18 lawyer firms? What?
No, I'm not trying to reduce. You're saying like we're just trying to reduce the number of. I don't care how many court cases are. I just want the system to work to maximize the missions.
I misunderstood. At first you were like, oh, people are suing people within these places and it's causing too much problem. But it seemed like maybe just the wrong people were suing the wrong people.
It's not like a lot of suits are happening. It's just that you could sue and that threat would keep people people to be like, oh, I really have to. Yeah. Oh yeah, shoot, I really do have a fiduciary responsibility. Okay, yeah, I vote with the motion to raise more money. Or
the idea isn't people licking their chops, eager to sue. It's going. Oh,
it's like, hey, we all have a fiduciary response. Somebody says, do I have to remind you all that we have a fiduciary responsibility to this organization? And so if we don't do what this. If we're working with a say your organization is a small, like $10 million a year nonprofit, and then you like apply and you're talking to like a Bill Gates Foundation, like a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, huge thing. And they say, hey, we could double your operating budget next year. We could give you $10 million, but you have to do like A, B, and C. And those things like pull you away from your mission.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do it.
Yep.
You just got to do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you sure shoot, the board members around the board or the table. One or two of them is going to say, we have a fiduciary responsibility to this organization and and that means something,
Well, like this discourse I heard happening a while back with the post office and like people talking about like, the post office isn't profitable enough. We need to figure out how to cut service to people where it's not profitable. Like, it's not the point. The point is the service goes everywhere.
Right.
And if it's not profitable,
it's
that's
like
the cost of having
the highways aren't profitable enough. It's like
this road to your house doesn't generate us enough money.
Why doesn't it generate any money? It's like it's a fucking road.
It's like having roads everywhere is a good infrastructure situation.
Yeah. Maybe we should have the post office instead of being like blue. Maybe they should wear like a blue, but they should have like fatigues. Because then people would be like, it's the military. Like they would identify because no one ever wants the military to make money. It's a huge money pit. It's literally where we're like dump money into like the
Wait,
money
what?
pit.
Oh, okay. I'm like, they take money.
They take a lot of money.
They get a lot of money.
The Pentagon doesn't make anything. They don't make any money. They don't make any profit at all. And they just get hundreds of billions of dollars a year. So if we made just the post office people wear like camo, like just blue camo shorts, instead of the blue, like,
instead of the normal, like,
yeah. Then people would be like, oh no, don't mess with them. They're the military, right? See those camo, or just camo hats. Camo post office hat.
I have a.
Oh no, this is another solution. We're doing another episode. Damn it! You tricked me into doing two episodes in one.
I gotcha.
Damn you!
All right, I got to get in my Lamborghini that my nonprofit is paid for and drive away now.
There he goes. Bye. Scott's gone. Everyone.
I tricked you, and now you have to do your own second episode.
Is this a new planet? No. This is a Captain Planet episode. It's turning. I just love the word fiduciary. Fiduciary. I don't even know what it means. Well, I know what it means. I don't know its root. I don't know what the Latin is, but I know what it means. I mean, it means you have, a financial. You have the duty to put the financial, goodness of this thing over your own self-interest.
It's a great fancy word.
Yeah,
fiduciary. Yeah.
It was just switched from being fiduciary to not fiduciary.
No,
There's been a big fight about this. Is financial advisors. So under Obama, they passed. I don't know if it was a law or if it's just rules like from the executive, but under Obama, the administration of Obama, either through the law or just through the action of the executive, they made it so that financial advisors have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients, which means they cannot, if they recommend something that they benefit,
right,
and it's not that the client's going to benefit, then the client can sue big time.
Keeping someone from doing like a Bernie Madoff style pump and dump
that's illegal already because it's like a Ponzi scheme. But it's like this. Let me imagine this. Okay, I'm a financial advisor, right? Yeah. And I'm like connected to all these like services, and they're like, hey, if you send us people, like we'll give you a kickback. And then your financial advisor,
isn't disclosing.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you should definitely sign up for this, like these 4 things. And everyone he gets to sign up, he gets money. And actually, it's not as good of an investment as if they just did like index funds. I mean, that's usually basically the thing. Like you should just do index funds. but like they try to get you. So in the Obama administration, they made it so that now you have fiduciary responsibility. If anyone can prove that you were doing that, it's illegal. Before it wasn't illegal. You could just be doing that. All the financial advisors could just be like, yep, and they could just be like getting their backsheesh, their greased palms on the flip side from kickbacks, and it was nothing. And then Trump reversed it. So now it went from no fiduciary responsibility to fiduciary responsibility for like 6 years, and now back to now.
The Wild
So
West.
if you go to a financial advisor, there's nothing protecting you that they are actually making decisions in your interest financially. They just
great. That seems like an awesome
horrible
change.
It's so bad.
Good job, everybody.
But that's that word fiduciary. You can think, shoot, I really want my financial advisor to have a fiduciary obligation to me. But I would also I don't want the boards of nonprofits to have a fiduciary responsibility, or they should, but it's secondary to a mission responsibility.
Yeah, if you tell the general public that a nonprofit has decided not to maximize every cent and instead provide a better or more whole service of what they're trying to do in their efforts, they're going to be like, yay, this is awesome, rah, rah, rah. And the opposite is also true, where if you tell them they didn't do that, and you're like, why? And they're like, well, you save a few cents here and a few cents there. That's terrible. That's terrible PR. Everyone's going to hate that.
Yeah.
This is great. This would be a great solution, I think. I don't know how to implement it. It would have to be, I feel like legislation, you can't, it's easier to add than repeal. And so it would have to be some sort of additive protection for the people in that room.
Yeah. I mean, there could be it could be like an omnibus. I mean, there's a lot of problems with philanthropy in America. A lot of it is, there's this term big philanthropy. Mm-hmm. It's like big oil, big tech. Big tech. There's also big philanthropy. There was a bunch of stuff on a bunch of things on Hassan Minhaj had a great episode of big philanthropy. So if anybody wants to look that up, they can get more into it. But there's a bunch of problems with philanthropy. A lot of it is sure, the whole idea is to help poor people, which is great. And help improve democracy, help society, whatever. And that's all great. But in reality, if you look at the actual numbers, the vast majority is just religions, which really just pay for their own property and pay their own staff, and they run religions. But I mean, religions are a worthwhile thing. You could just pay, for social clubs that aren't religions, they just have to pay, their taxes and whatever.
Right.
So most of it's religion. And then out of the non-religious, most of that, the majority of that is just Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Clinton Foundation, Trump Foundation, these multi-billion-dollar personal family trusts and these sort of personal family nonprofits, which and foundations, which are nonprofits, which really they do a lot of things, and they do good things. I'm not gonna poo-poo someone who gives out malaria nets or something. But if you look at everything they do, there's always this ancillary goal, which is to launder their reputations and kind of be perceived as kind of angelic, and therefore then they get less scrutiny for other things they do. And for example, Bill Gates came under antitrust, Microsoft and Bill Gates came under antitrust scrutiny multiple times in the 90s, and then in the 2000s, he established the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and he's never come under antitrust scrutiny again. It's that's interesting.
I mean, it is good, in a way that these billionaires have done more good monetarily than I have ever done or will. But also, it does
Don't sell yourself short, Scott. You're doing a podcast right now.
Oh, never mind.
We've
Actually,
touched so many
okay,
hearts.
so they've almost done as much as me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is a question of how much of the giving away part of your billions of dollars is keeping people from asking, how exactly did you get that?
Where'd you get those billions from?
Can we just make sure that was there was nothing really bad?
People are like, don't ask that.
But I'm giving
so good.
Some of it back.
He's giving some millions when he, I mean,
there's some
Bill
good.
Gates, basically shut down. I mean, he completely monopolized technology for almost 15 years.
It does seem like there are some good motives and there are some personal, selfish motives, and it's all tied in because that's humans too. But
then these organizations have a way outsized power, especially because they're throwing the biggest dollar amounts around, and all the organizations that are actually doing the programs. So So these big foundations, they don't do the programs. Like, they don't actually get in and like serve sandwiches to like old ladies.
They subcontract.
They don't, right. They donate down to nonprofits that are doing that.
Yeah.
Which means they're throwing that money around, and those nonprofits, because their boards have a fiduciary responsibility to the nonprofits, they have to basically do whatever these big foundations say. Because the board, the nonprofit says, or the foundation says, hey, we'll give you $10 million, but you have to do X, Y, and Z. And the boards are like, let's do it, like bend over backwards, like whatever they want.
Right.
And if they don't, it's like, we have a fiduciary responsibility to this organization. I don't know why they became Texans. They could be anywhere in the world, really. But wouldn't it be great if it was like, no, screw you guys. Like, I mean, sure, if we're not going to take your money, we're not going to work with you because we don't want to do those things that pull us away from our mission. And we're all in alignment about that because we don't have a fiduciary responsibility. We have a mission responsibility.
Yeah. Well, when you get into a competition where the dollar is the only thing that matters, you get a race to the bottom of
race to the bottom.
Where your bridge building people are like competing for the contract, and the lowest person builds you a bridge out of toothpicks. That's the cheapest bridge, and it falls apart, and you're mad about it. It doesn't work. You want something that has a base level of quality net that you can't go under, even if it's profitable.
Right.
Yeah. This would do it. You have awoken me to the idea that this was even happening. I didn't even know. And so it seems like a problem that this would help quell, which is what we're here to do.
I wonder if people are in nonprofits. See, that's the thing. I feel like people who are in nonprofits, they have this feeling like, oh, I'm separate from it, right? We said this before. Like, I'm clean from capitalism. And I just
that's definitely the outside perception.
I'm just here to tell those people they're not. And it's sad because I want them to be able to be. I want there to be a sector of society that literally is mission driven,
right?
And there is no. I mean, the fiduciary responsibility is only after your mission.
There seems to be no stepping outside of the arena. You just have to kind of build the protections you need within the thing.
Right.
To fool yourself to think you're just not involved in it is delusional, right?
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to build boards, because if it would be easy to build boards if you were like, I wrote the mission statement, right? And now I'm going to try to get people to join the board. They have to literally sign on to the mission statement. And now whatever's in the mission, they have to do, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, sure, part of the mission is keeping the organization alive financially. Right. But if you had to kill the organization to follow the mission, you should. Because the whole point of nonprofits is not to exist; it's to achieve its mission.
Achieve the mission.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
So we really So, anyways, I think this solution for the multiverse, I think in some ways exposes like a really sort of dark, sad sort of right. It sort of shows like that it's capitalism all the way down. Right?
Yeah,
like turtles all the way down.
Uh-huh.
It's capitalism all the way down in a sort of sad way.
It shows that it's just hard to. You can't escape.
Yeah.
You sit there, you drive an electric car, and you're like, oh, I'm not participating in fossil fuels. Like, oh, well, where's your electricity come from? And you go back and back and back. You're like, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
But it's about continually getting better, refining it, getting it better.
Right.
Even though you can't jump out of everything bad right now, step out of it a little bit at a time, and this is one step.
Yeah. And just being aware is a key thing.
I think.
So this is interesting. And if we're all wrong, if we're completely wrong about this, then great. If it's completely wrong and someone totally schools us about this, we'll do a follow-up little
I'd love to.
And we'll explain how we were totally wrong. But as far as I can tell, this is how it works, and it's really, really sort of sad.
I love admitting when I'm wrong. I mean,
me too.
Theoretically, it hasn't happened yet, but
one
of these days when
you can imagine.
I am wrong,
I
feel like I would love to admit it. I can't wait.
There's this great TED talk where the speaker is awesome, and she says, what does it feel like to be right? And everyone's like, oh yeah, okay, that's how it feels. And then she says, okay, what does it feel like to think you're right but to be wrong? And then everyone realizes it feels like being right, right? So being wrong actually feels like being right.
Yeah.
So that's what we can enjoy right now. We're enjoying this blissful feeling of being right but we'll be corrected if we're wrong. We were immediately corrected on the judges episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. With someone
that's
immediately
great.
said,
Feedback.
They said, no, you can have a judge trial. It's called a bench trial. But they're right. I mean, they're a judge, the person who taught us this. So you can have a bench trial, which means you can elect to not have a jury, and you can have a judge review your case and decide if you're guilty or innocent. But it's only one judge. So our idea was still kind of new because
still different.
3 judges.
Yeah.
which I think is probably actually safer, right? Because then you don't have one person kind of judge dreading up there, judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah. Well, this was great, Scott. I'm sorry we went across the ocean of boredom here.
I'm
but
not.
It
I
was
like
interesting, right? We became sailors a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason. I mean, we got through the defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Behind that keeps people from like
and
investigating
why do
this.
we think like the machinery that runs like the most sophisticated civilization in history is boring? Isn't it fascinating, right? Shouldn't it just be like amazing? Like, wow, this gear that goes into this machine, it runs everything. Like it's way in the back in the guts, but look at what it runs. Shouldn't we be super? But we're not.
Yeah.
It's just boring. Instead, we just want to be on TikTok. I've been shooting a lot of TikToks out there.
I gotta check them
Making
out.
some TikToks. Okay, Scott, this is awesome. Thanks everybody for listening. This is Solutions from the Multiverse.
Thanks everyone,
and we'll continue the conversation. And we're the podcast where other people got problems. We got solutions. Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye.
Hey there, thanks for listening to that episode of Solutions from the Multiverse.
Yeah, we're back with a little after roll. Hello.
Hey, after roll. Roll that after roll. So basically we want you to subscribe.
Yeah.
And rate and review and tell someone, like take your favorite solution and send it to someone who you think it would like blow their mind to hear it.
Yeah, we love making the show. We're proud of it. And we're excited. We want other people to show. We know that the main way people find podcasts is word of mouth. I know that's true for me. I listen to my friends who also listen to podcasts tell me about ones, and I go, okay, I'm cluing into that. So we want to be part of that chain.
So thanks for being a part of Solutions.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again real soon.
Bye.
Bye.